Hi there, you're listening to Unnatural Selection, this show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom.
And my name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com.
Recording a little early today for any of you watching live.
I think some people will appreciate the early morning caffeinated version of Unnatural Selection as opposed to the whiskey-infused, rage-filled afternoon.
Maybe some afternoon. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know how caffeinated I am. Like, I'm still sort of waiting for it to hit. So we'll find out.
So if Adam disappears for about 15 to 20 minutes in the middle of the show, we know exactly what's happened.
Yeah, his heart's exploded.
Oh, I was going to say his shit his pants.
Oh, okay.
Porque no los dos, gentlemen.
Yeah.
You could do both, like Elvis, and die on the toilet.
Oh, that's bleak as fuck. Don't say that. But everything's bleak this week because World War III is about to kick off.
What we've decided to do this week is instead of bringing you the normal happy-go-lucky, feel-good, warm, fuzzy news that we normally bring you on a weekly basis, what we've decided to do is focus on all of the very depressing news about the state of the world instead, which is not our normal fare. So
no, not at all.
But listeners will be pleased to know that there is not a 40-minute diatribe about interest rates in this week's rundown. So there is that to look forward to.
My fiance
no monetary policy.
Oh, yeah, there was an increase in interest rates this week, so there was that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
my fiance was telling me the other day, saying like, I love George and Adam, but as soon as they start talking about monetary theory and policy, I'm like,
that's not okay. First of all, yes, I appreciate it's incredibly boring. But on the other hand, it's my podcast and I'll cry if I want to.
She just flipped me off for telling you. She just came into the room.
Thanks, Alice. So let's start with the top story. Nancy Pelosi goes to Taiwan and then is in Taiwan, and everyone is very unhappy.
Yeah, no one is happy about it in the slightest.
Joe Biden's not happy. China's not happy. Even the Prime Minister of Taiwan doesn't seem too happy about it.
Maybe not thrilled.
We know why she went.
Here's the thing. So Nancy Pelosi, U.S. Representatives, House of Representatives Speaker, and third in line to the throne, the Iron Throne, Nancy Pelosi, has had a long-standing beef, I guess, with China about freedom and democracy. So there's a clip of her,
personally,
personally
having a beef with it. Wow, okay,
yeah.
So Tiananmen Square, right?
Yeah, so basically 31 years ago, and that's how you know these people have been in politics too fucking long, is it was my entire lifetime ago that she went to Tiananmen Square and held up this little black banner being like, love democracy, and then all the Chinese cops were like, fucking get out of here, what the fuck are you doing, fucking, and then just beat up a bunch of journalists over it. There was 7 journalists that got detained and roughed up over it. And that was when she was 51. And that was 31 years ago. It's you have been around to go home, Nancy. Please retire. Please go spend some time with your probably great-grandchildren. You didn't need to get out. Stop making legislation. You're so old. So it's been a thing of hers, is that always wanting to, sort of stick it to the Chinese Communist Party and rah-rah democracy, America, all that sort of stuff. So, given that her tenure is provided she doesn't drop dead in the next couple of months, being 82 years old and all, she'll most likely be finishing up her role as Speaker of the House, given the fact that she's as old as the hills and the Democrats are set to lose the midterm election, so she'll no longer be Speaker of the House, and many people expect that she's going to retire eventually at that point. So she just wanted one last hurrah. Just one, rather than a retirement party and getting a gold watch or buying some more shares in NVIDIA right before she passes the CHIPS Act, further enriching herself, she's decided to go to Taiwan and potentially kick off World War III. So the Chinese were like,
I mean, it's a good, like, you know,
definitely
there's ways to quit. There's so many ways to quit your job.
definitely finish with a bang, not a whimper. It might be a nuclear bang.
yeah. Start, like, quitting your job by starting World War III. I mean, few people can do that.
So the Chinese are like predictably like furious and irrational about it. They're like, we're gonna fucking shoot the plane out of the fucking sky. And people are like, please don't. And even Joe Biden obviously was not like thrilled about this because it's creating unnecessary tension when there's no need for it. But because the visit was sort of like, she was meant to go, I think it was earlier in the year, and then that got scuttled by a COVID infection, didn't happen. And then she's like, I'm going to Japan and Korea, and maybe I'll go to Taiwan if I'm a naughty girl. Like, it's kind of like hinted at it, but like...
It was surreptitiously not announced, but everyone was expecting it.
But everyone was like, we absolutely know you're going to fucking Taiwan because of course you are. And then she's like, guess what, boys? Surprise. Going to Taiwan. Anyway, so she lands in Taiwan.
She was there for like less than 12 hours. She like dropped in, shook some hands, and then left.
Yeah, but believe it or not, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, wasn't there was there for a photo shoot and not for much else. So I don't think they were discussing like substantive policy around, military defense against potential Chinese invasion, just long enough to cause a bunch of issues and make everyone mad at her and then leave. So there was one particular, so there were like pro-America protesters, and then there were some like anti-America protesters. And there was just this like one sign.
Billboards? Like that were hacked, or not hacked, but like, billboards, digital billboards were like bought out to have like.
Oh, I didn't hear about this.
Pelosi sort of stuff. I thought, I saw some pictures.
It's the most secret visit that's not actually a secret. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Someone's had that digitally created.
But there's this one. Sign that this woman's holding up. Yes. So, come on, so it's just like it's a borderline offensive cartoon of Nancy Pelosi drawn on it, and it says
caricature
United States Congress on her hat, and then in I guess Chinese characters it says ugly American, and then in English in red it also says ugly American, which is not so much a protest as just like a mean thing to say about Nancy Pelosi. It's just kind of like, I just thought it was just rude. It was
if they missed like the purpose of the protest. It's like, we're not protesting non-conventionally attractive people in government. No, that's next week. Today's not. No, this is. No, you picked the wrong day, man.
I totally get a sign that's like, one of them behind is like, respect Republic of China by doing everything that they say and acquiescing to all of their demands. But like, it's, ugly American just seems like a personal insult. It's just like, I don't think you quite really grasped at the sign writing, sort of session. I don't think you really got what this was about necessarily, just like insulting someone's physical persona. But I was just greatly amused by that. So I thought I'd bring it up.
But by all accounts, the Chinese military has been very restrained in their response.
Their normal restrained, measured response to this sort of stuff. And they say, very, almost serene, almost Buddhist in the way that they approach it. Like life is suffering. Maybe not this one. We'll get the next one. No, of course, the Chinese military started doing missiles and missile tests and
really surrounded Taiwan. They literally surrounded Taiwan.
I wasn't fully across like the timelines and everything as to whether this was already planned before it was more publicly known that Pelosi was going to be there. But it seems like they go, oh, Pelosi's going to be there. Well, it just so happens we're conducting military exercises in and around Taiwan. And then the moment she was either speaking or that she left, I think, because again, you say she was only there for like fucking 12 hours, that they just sent some fighter jets flying around and a few of them just crossed into airspace. It was like, just a couple of them.
I'm a naughty boy. I'm in your airspace. What are you going to do about it?
It's like just pushing a finger over the line on a table, being like, look, I'm in your airspace a little bit.
Stop hitting yourself. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm just like, in
what
your
are you
space.
going to do? What are you going to do about it?
So, to be frank, they frequently breach Taiwan's airspace.
To the point where the median line is the median line. Or something
I don't know exactly where it stops and finishes, but basically,
I think it's fighter
jets are scrambling
the third chakra.
Every couple of weeks. The third what?
What? The third chakra that they over meridian lines? Isn't that what we were?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I've misunderstood.
It sounds slightly racist. I'm not going to lie.
Wait, hang on.
At worst, at best, culturally insensitive.
At best, culturally insensitive should be the name of the show.
Yeah. But no, like the over the last 5 years, the Taiwanese are scrambling their jets every couple of weeks, and we're talking not just like for 1 or 2 planes. In some cases, they're sending 30 to 40 planes crossing into tiny Taiwanese airspace just to fucking psych them out.
Yeah, just to go, hey, we're here. Remember, we're still here.
You're saying the Chinese are scrambling jets into Taiwanese territory?
No, the Chinese are sending jets up, and then the Taiwanese are having to scramble. So
in order to
ready
meet
for combat. Yeah.
So the problem with that is, and this is what you do if you're about to invade someone, is you're putting the enemy in a constant state of confusion, right? Like, is this a real thing, or is this just them trying to piss us off? Is this a real thing, or is it just trying to? And then you're also, every time you send up a set of jets, it costs money. So you're you spent, you're
trying to drain their resources, and
What's interesting about these drills is they're not just sending some planes in; they've actually surrounded the island in a couple of different zones. Including on the eastern side, which is open to the Pacific, and effectively like almost blocking sort of ports a little bit. Like
I thought some people said like it's a blockade, and it was like no, we're doing war games. These are military exercises. Like it's a fucking blockade.
Yeah, except the difference between pretending to do a blockade and doing a blockade are functionally the same. Yes. I'm reading this book at the moment. My so I was overseas. Did I mention this on the show? So I'm reading this book called The Economic Weapon, which is about the history of sanctions. My mum saw me looking at it, and she's like, "Oh, is that for uni?" And I was like, "No, this is for fun. This is what I."
Yeah, I'm reading this for pleasure.
I am just really interested about the history of sanctions starting in World War I and how they developed into a thing. But yeah, essentially the whole idea between sanctions, the historical, and it's like a fantastic book, by the way. If this is something that's of interest to you, you should definitely check it out. But the whole idea of sanctions is like the French term that originated for it was the economic weapon. That this was devised as a strategy prior to and during World War I as a way of weakening the enemy without having to necessarily send troops in, right? Without having assets on the ground. The Britain basically used its superior financial position towards the end of the 1800s as a way of conducting, I was going to say diplomacy, gunboat diplomacy in several instances where they said, do what we want you to do, give us what we want, or we're going to fucking financially ruin your country. And then the colonized nation goes, please take all the bananas, whatever you want, mate. Like, just it's like real example. So like it has emerged, the whole idea of sanctions as an idea has emerged out of armed conflict. So I don't think it's necessarily should be conceived of in the way that we tend to conceive it in the modern context, where it's just like, oh, we're levying sanctions against Russia. It's a non-military way of hurting them. It's like, no, it is another kind of conflict. It is, and that's why it's called the economic weapon. It is a weapon, and insofar as it actually hurts the populace of the people of the nation that's targeted, it's actually worse than conventional weapons in some ways. Like
saying that the blockade is the equivalent of.
Well, I'm saying it could. Point? I guess the point is that it's not like sanctions and blockades are not as harmless or not as like should not be considered less of a threat than actual armed intervention.
We put them in separate boxes of like, there's bombs and guns and like actual conflict going on. Oh no, we sanctioned them. We kind of separate them.
We seem to think of it as a lesser provocation than like scrambling jets, for example. But like if you look at the consequences of sanctions during the Second World War, resulted in people dying of starvation in target countries, which well outnumbered the amount of people that actually died in armed conflict. So what I'm saying is they're not always, but they can be as dangerous as actual armed conflict.
Yeah.
China hasn't said they're actually blockading Taiwan. They've
China's
sort of surrounded them.
Doing a lot of things.
Yeah. The point being is, if you're a merchant vessel, you're not going to go straying into the what am I trying to say? Not the testing zone, the drill zone, because you might get a rocket or a shell.
Hey guys, just here delivering some graphics cards. It's just got a bunch of computer chips.
Whoa. I mean, not to get like too bogged down into just a complete tangent, but yeah, that can be like a huge effect of if this is a blockade or if there was a conflict and all that sort of stuff. Some major computer chip manufacturing is done in Taiwan. TSMC is one of the biggest like producers of microchips for anything from graphics cards.
Can we not inflate the price again, please?
So, and this is the whole thing with Taiwan is like they call the name of the company is, say it again, Tom.
TSMC.
TSMC. So they call it the TSMC Shield. The reason that Taiwan has yet to be invaded by China is because all of these microchips are being produced. Obviously, there's other reasons. There's like they've set up what they call a porcupine defense, so it's like would make it really, really difficult for Chinese to actually enter and occupy the place. But it is one of the. It's kind of like, is it a strategic asset or is it a detriment to the country that they've got such a valuable resource there? That's so valuable, especially now for like global worldwide production of because these computer chips are in everything now because of Internet of Things. They're in your fridge, they're in your cars, they're in your cameras, they're in your phones. That this is a absolutely super valuable worldwide asset.
It's not just nerds. Needs. Yeah, it's not just nerds like us who want better graphics cards for gaming. It's like this shit is actually in everything.
It's in everything, and you saw when production was sort of constrained during the pandemic, you saw instances where cars went back to older technology in order to be able to deliver units on time. So like rather than having an electric speedometer in your car, which would show you digitally what the speed that you're going, newer models of cars actually reverted back to analog speedometers, which is the little needle on the thing, because they just couldn't get the chips for them. So it's like a massive strategic asset for like the Western world to have access to these chips, which is partly why Nancy Pelosi passed this chips bill, partly to line her own pockets, but also partly to increase domestic production in the United States of these kinds of chips. So that company, acronym again?
TSMC.
TSMC is setting up what is thought to be setting up a plant in the United States for domestic production of those chips because it's like a strategic risk to have them located in China. But these chips and how they're manufactured, it's like an incredibly complex
advanced manufacturing.
Advanced manufacturing. It's not like a production line in China where you're just like making knockoff Chanel handbags in the same factory that you make Chanel handbags in. It's like a whole system where you need to have like what's the phrase for it? It's like incredibly clean controls.
Oh, yeah. Like those
clean rooms.
Clean rooms. The environmental controls are insane.
Yeah, it's like
and the level of precision is
like above surgical level cleanliness in these rooms. It's like a biohazard room or something like that in order to create the conditions in which these things can be created. And it's very international. They're getting parts from this country over here. They're communicating with people over in Germany. It's like it's a very delicate process.
And there's also
and it, like if they get invaded by China, there's no guarantee that all of that would still be able to continue in the way that it has been. So it's kind of like it's a protection, but it's also like the Chinese want it as a strategic asset. So the whole thing is very complicated.
And I don't think really Xi gives a shit. I think it's for him. It's about completing a legacy. And look, the military build up along that coastline in China is. It's insane. Like China's gone from having one of the, not a small navy, but like a pretty average sized navy to one of the largest, if not the largest navy in the world now. And that's just to have ships to cross the Taiwan Strait.
But don't worry,
what else are they doing with those ships? Like what other duties they have?
We'll be getting a couple of nuclear subs in 2050 that will. It's basically an iron. We're girt by sea and indestructible submarines, so we'll be fine, mate. No worries.
Got 2
Yeah,
points.
yeah, girt by sea, and it's keeping us here because we can't travel out of it because we don't have our submarines yet.
Yeah.
What do we think about the concept that no one else had approved of the visit? Like
I'm
this
into-
concept that Biden didn't know about it, or
he didn't know
well, maybe
about
I didn't
it,
know about it,
but he didn't
like,
approve.
didn't approve it. Yeah,
I'm in two minds about it because it's like you're a private citizen, you can go wherever the fuck like you want to go. There should be no restrictions on people being able to go to certain places in Asia because it's going to like piss China off. I don't think that's the right precedent to set because like once it's announced or once it's suspected that she's going, I think it's symbolically it's unattractive to back down afterwards. But I'm also aware that it's like not a smart thing to do at this exact moment in time. And as a very senior US political representative, you are suggesting that there is like an official tenor to the nature of your visit. It's projecting like some sort of American influence and power in the region, which is like problematic. If she decided to do this after she was out of the House of Reps, I think I'd be more supportive because it's like, yeah, well, you're a private citizen now. You can go wherever
but
you
traveling
want,
around the world, bloody, doing speeches everywhere and just like
yeah,
and citing a bunch of stuff that's like in no way endorsed by the Australian government.
Yeah, it feels like a political statement because of her position.
Yeah,
and it is.
Yeah.
So
well, and she was the first person to do it in like 25 years, right?
Yeah.
As well, was like another part of it. Like no similarly high ranking US official has done a visit to Taiwan.
Yeah, so it is a statement. What do you reckon, Adam? What's the strategic? It doesn't seem like there's much of a benefit. It just feels like Nancy
I think it was
Pelosi,
a massive fucking fuck up, and they shouldn't have done it. She shouldn't have done it. It was dumb. Like China wants to invade Taiwan. Don't give them a reason to.
Yeah.
It's at odds with all other foreign policy where we're trying to calm China down because China's looking at Ukraine right now going, interesting. Let's not give them an excuse. I mean, there is the other concept of it as like, you could say, well, Josh, it's being a deterrent because it's showing that the US is interested in the area and China will have to weigh that strategically. It's like, well, they already know that. Yeah, they already know that the US has carrier groups sitting off the west coast of Taiwan. You don't need to, you don't need to aggravate them with a symbolic gesture because that, by the way, is seen by, I mean, I'm going to sort of generalize a little bit here, but it's those kind of things are seen by the Chinese Communist Party. Symbolic gestures are very important.
Yes.
And making symbolic gestures, which are at odds with, by the way, Australia's policy. You could see Richard Marles, or whatever his name was, is the defense minister, just sort of being like, he's on an interview the other day and he was just kind of like, yeah, this is our policy. Sort of whatever they do is for them. So our policy in Australia is that we want to maintain the status quo, right? Yeah. We support one China as, again, a symbolic overall philosophy, but in practice, we don't want to see CCP control of Taiwan. But, her doing this and because we're now ever more closely being militarily aligned to the US, like it just puts more pressure on us here in Australia when we then get drawn into situations like this.
Do you think though that there is a concern about self-censorship? Like if we know China doesn't want us to do a thing and then we don't do that thing because we know it's going to anger them and they're going to have this outsized like comic book reaction to something that we do, is that a good enough excuse to not do it?
I think knowing that they're not like careful
reasonable.
About it. I don't think this is a careful. I think it's her just, as you said, having her last hurrah.
Yeah.
It's not a careful, measured. Anything you say on the global stage in regards to China or the Chinese Communist Party, you've got to be very measured and careful with what you say. You can't just make sweeping, grandiose.
Yeah, the benefit that you get out of it needs to be worth it, right? So that's the thing. It's like, because George, you're right. Like, I guess choosing not to do things purely out of like, China will react badly and then might start a war. That's, then you effectively are like China's ruling the roost then.
Right.
But I guess at the same time, it's one of those things of this will anger China, but it's the right thing to do because we get this, or like, because it achieves this thing. Whilst I don't know what's Pelosi achieved by the. I don't know. It's sort of like I don't know. Does Taiwan feel better? Like, does Taiwan feel supported? Because I guess if so, then okay, like that we're on the right side of this. So like, okay, but do they? Like, they didn't seem that thrilled that she was coming either. Like, I don't know. It just seems like it's not the juice was not worth the squeeze, as it were.
And I can't imagine like how not worth it would have been to have started World War III over 82-year-old millionaire Nancy Pelosi. Like, however this shakes out, like, you're at the end of your life, you got away with it. So it's like you're going to go back to nice sunny California and just like chill in your beachside mansion. And like, while Asia Pacific, potentially is embroiled in a conflict now because of what you've done.
War.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. If China does invade Taiwan, is the start of World War III technically the start of the Ukraine crisis, or is it when the China thing happens?
I guess
where do you take the start of? Where do you take the start?
I have an answer to that. So the invasion of Ukraine will be seen as like the murder of Franz Ferdinand. It'd be like, this is the thing that kicked off what ended up being a global conflict.
Yeah, like I said, that'll be one for the history books to decide if there's any of us left by the time it's over.
And it's just like, I just imagine us sitting around like a fire that we've started in the hard drive of a computer or something. We're just like all huddled around it in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. And like, so what started all of this? And like, Nancy Pelosi. They're like, really? All of this, it's just like the Terminators. You see them, sort of emerging over the horizon. The red eyes.
Sitting just there in our rags with microphones that aren't even plugged into anything, but just still speaking into them.
There's probably just as many people will hear us, but it's just like, would you believe this is all because of Nancy Pelosi? Well, there you go. Yeah, all right. Well, off to fight the machines.
Off to fight the machines.
Well, changing tact a bit, you know who else is a machine?
Who?
Matthew Guy.
Matthew.
A machine in that he works hard, or a machine in that he clearly keeps glitching out and his code's not very good and just sort of like... Yeah.
I mean, this isn't actually about Matthew Guy, but it's related to Matthew Guy.
A machine in that he's part of the broken, corrupt political machinery of the Victorian Liberal Party.
Yes, that's probably a better analogy.
Yep. So shall I dig up this dog shit? Okay. Yeah. So Matthew Guy's chief of staff, Mitch Caitlin, has resigned over a proposal for a party donor to pay his private company $8,333 a month. So as a result of that, the Victorian government has asked the police and Ibac, the Independent Broad-Based Commission Against Corruption, to investigate this proposed deal with the Liberal donor. So there are donation caps here in Victoria, and the chief of staff of the Victorian opposition leader, Matthew Guy, Mitch Caitlin, has this separate business that he runs for media marketing and management. Media marketing. And it's suggested that in order to get around these donation caps, Mitch Caitlin organized or spoke to the donor and I guess got approval that he wanted to donate about around $100,000, but obviously would fall afoul of these donation caps. So Mitch Caitlin said, I've got a great idea. Why don't you just give my money to my private business, and then you'll be paying for a service, quote unquote, not actually donating to the Victorian Liberal Party.
It's the allegation, essentially.
Say again?
That's the allegation.
That's right? Yes. Well, I mean, he has resigned over this allegation. So I think it's safe to say that there is some there, right? So
I resign over things I didn't do all the time.
Constantly. That's why I can't hold a job for more than 3 months. I'm just constantly resigning, just in a Mobius strip of falling on my own sword.
Yeah, someone says, well, Tom, did you leave your glass in the sink when the dishwasher's right there in the office? I'm like, well, I'm just taking this time to step back and spend more time with my family. honest investigation that I definitely didn't do it. That glass is not mine, but in the interest of an open and honest investigation, I am resigning.
I have I've shamed my family and I must commit ritual suicide. So
we got an email at work the other day from one of the team leaders who was like, guys, we need to treat our office with respect and stop leaving cups and coffee cups and glasses all over the desks. The cleaners are not our slaves. I was like,
the joys.
It's been 3 years and we haven't had one of being
back in the office.
Yeah, everyone's forgotten how to office.
So Mitch Caitlin resigned on Tuesday morning after The Age had revealed he had forwarded a proposed contract to the state Liberal leader Matthew Guy last year, right after he got back in, which is interesting, the sort of timing of like, hey, you're leader. So I need some guidance on this corruption. So how do we, this is like item number 1, let's get some money. Should we think about how to serve the people of Victoria, or maybe Google some of the proposals that we're putting forward before we actually post them on social media? No. Let's talk about the money. So the proposed a contract to Matthew Guy last year that would have required the donor to pay $8,333 a month to his company, Catchy Media Marketing, for services described as, quote, supporting business interests. And I suppose they really are supporting business interests in that they are supporting their own business interests by donating money to the Liberal Party.
What does that mean? Is that like when you do some new business cards that they print
supporting
off the business cards?
We're consulting strategy. We just put some shit down on an invoice that's got some plausible deniability, and we'll get some money in, and she'll be right.
This freaking sounds like that story with the Canberra Institute of Technology I was talking about a couple episodes ago of just, we're just giving money to the Strategic Thinkers Inc. for some complexity discussions around managing dynamics.
Do a flowchart. Synergy.
Like, what?
It was
Silos.
The most that Institute of Management story was crazy, because you go to their website and you look at the language they use, and just what do you guys do?
It's just as someone who's nearing the end of studying an MBA and like who is in this world, it was also meaningless to me. It was just just meaningless MBA jargon horseshit. Like,
I don't think I've read like several thousand words like that and have had like nothing computed.
So much words, so little meaning. That's a perfect encapsulation of a business degree. Anyway, so Guy,
$333 a month, that would have equated to over $100,000 in payments.
I suppose it depends on how long the contract. The thing that I thought was interesting about this is that, according to The Age, Caitlin hired lawyers to draw up a contract for the arrangement and then sent it to Matthew Guy's personal email address, asking him to forward it to the donor, who has not been named. So
you should never use personal email servers. I mean,
Clinton... I think the personal email thing might have been a very devious and obviously not very sophisticated attempt to circumvent any kind of email trail that might be left on work servers. Because if it goes to a personal email address, then I don't know, presumably maybe you'd have a harder time getting to it, or maybe there's some plausible deniability. If it's like matthewguy@gmail.com, I guess maybe you don't have that sort of shield, but maybe it's not like as easily turned up in a public inquiry where they search, like government servers. Maybe that was the thinking there. Anyway, the quote is, "Hey MG, Matthew Guy, attached is the proposed agreement between the donor and Catchy Media Marketing Management. It is per the original email agreement between you and me." So obviously that's not necessarily evidence that Matthew Guy was in on it, but it does suggest that Matthew Guy had some awareness of the scheme as it was transpiring. So Matthew Guy, as far as I understand it, denies knowing anything about it. He sent it. Matthew Guy denies receiving it, but we've got quotes from it. So I don't know, draw your own conclusions. But it doesn't look good.
What I love as well, the Schadenfreude of this is just the only thing the Liberals have had over the last 3 years, 4 years now almost, is Labor is so corrupt. They're the most corrupt.
Dan Andrews' government, who knew about the hotel quarantine and when? Who knew about the curfew? There needs to be an inquiry. The red shirts, where they were doing politics stuff on government, paid time, like absolute corruption, self-dealing, stacking branches in the Labor Party, absolute disgusting corruption that we would $100,000. Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to route it through this Cayman Islands banking account. And then we're going to invoice you. I'm not going to invoice you personally. It's going to be the company under a shell name that invoices you. Maddie, you okay with this? Hey, the government, the corruption in Labor is just completely fucking disgusting. The fucking unions.
And this comes from the guy that had this is what undid him the first. This is the second time he's had a crack at the Liberal leadership in Victoria. Yeah. The first time he was undone by, what was it, a lobster dinner or something?
Lobster with a mobster.
Yeah, he had a lobster dinner or lunch with a mobster.
I'm aware that like political machinery on a state level in particular, it seems, is grounded in, and I think this is both sides to some degree, is grounded in a certain amount of corruption. I think branch stacking is wrong. And there was a report that came out about Labor branch stacking just weeks ago, which we neglected to get to on the show because we're partisan hacks. But it's...
We talked about it a little bit.
We mentioned it in passing. Like branch stacking is, I think it was... I don't want to go off the cuff because I don't remember the exact details. But Ibac, the Commission Against Corruption, neglected to pursue criminal charges, but they said like, "Hey, this is dirty. Like, this is not good. Yeah. Not good practice for a party to be engaging in this sort of stuff." And so the recommendations were that you can't hire family members within your own offices. You can't, this sort of like self-dealing of branch stacking should not be allowed. Like,
why? On the episode we did the CERN stuff, that was that episode.
I'm sure we touched on it, but like not in depth is what I'm saying. Like, I'm aware that the political machinery on the ground, like, is grounded in a certain level of like branch stacking and sort of background level corruption, which is wrong. I can think both things are wrong at the same time. I can think branch stacking is wrong. And I can also think that if these allegations are proven to be true, that defrauding the Australian public by skirting the donation cap laws and invoicing through your own business is also wrong and possibly criminal. Like, if those allegations are proven out to be true, like I can think both of those things at the same time, I guess is my point. I don't have to believe that like Labor is pure as the driven snow, because I know they're not. I don't believe that. But I would still rather Labor's corruption than the LNP's corruption, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but part of the problem with this is that you get people doing the Trumpism of both sides are fucked, or probably not Trump, but like the Clive Palmer thing of both sides are corrupt.
Vote third party. Andrew Yang.
Yeah, both sides are corrupt. Vote for my corruption.
And you end up voting a bunch of Nazis in or something because...
Yeah. Well, that's what tends to happen, right? Is people want to throw a bomb at the system because they see the corruption. They see it's not working for them. They go, who'd really fix this up? A bunch of fucking neo-Nazis.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get rid of the financial corruption and just go for some old-fashioned moral corruption.
Yeah, I think dealing with a stagnant two-party system and introducing Nazis into it has always historically had excellent results.
Oh, God. But I don't understand how the Liberal Party, this Matthew guy has stepped in after effectively a bloodbath prior to the lockdowns sort of ending.
Yeah.
Where, the party basically collapsed in on itself, didn't have any clear policies. They didn't make any headway in any of the Labor stuff that they could have pinned Labor on. They just weren't making any headway on it. And so Matthew Guy stepped in. You'd think one of his first things would be, let's make sure that we're a step above where we're
bastions
what we're slagging
of
on.
Moral integrity, right?
Yeah.
If you're attacking people on morals, then you would think you'd want to have your own house sorted. Meanwhile, first order of government is... hey, let's look at this corruption contract that we've drawn up together. Like,
well, I wonder if maybe he did think that. He did think like, all right, we've got to make sure that all our stuff's in order. So what do we have? Saw what that would involve and went, oh man, that's too much work. Let's just try and keep it hidden instead and still try to hit them with moral grandstanding.
And I guess I should say, like, for full disclosure, for legal reasons, Guy said that he never accepted Caitlin's proposal. The contract was, quote, never signed, never actioned, and never formalized. But the fact that it was put to you in the first place as a thing you would reasonably sign, and it sounds like, if we are to believe the copy in the email, it suggests that you've had prior discussions about up until the fact that it's even being discussed in a serious context is the problem. Like whether or not you realize the optics of it would be tragic, like, and decided not to do it is almost beside the point. Like the fact that you engaged in the discussion is the problem, if that makes sense.
You can't even palm it off to it like, oh, it was a staffer that was
went to your personal email.
Was looking at it. Went to your personal email, man. Like,
yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah,
Yikes.
Matthew at definitely matthewguy.com. It's pretty bad. So
at least he didn't sign it. That would have been worse if he signed it. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, Guy denied knowing about the proposal at the time. So he denied knowing about it at the time that this was raised, and now knows about it, but knows that it wasn't signed, it wasn't actioned. So, like, it's just a really bad look for a Liberal Party that's been in shambles. Matthew Guy, off to Michael O'Brien, back to Matthew Guy again. Like, it doesn't seem as though it's a party that is ready to take on the Labor government at the next election.
Yeah, should be make for a fun time coming. I think it's November is the
November 26th
election. So probably good overall, but we'll see. Good news though. We do have some good news today. We lied at the start of the show.
Did we?
We've got some good news. Yeah, the climate bill.
Goodish.
Gooder.
Yeah, goodish.
Gooder than what's happened up until now.
I mean, fair.
Gooder than what's happened up until now should be Labor's slogan for the next election. They're like, hey, it's less bad than the previous guys. Remember when Tony Abbott ate an onion? It's less bad than that.
They've started to pass the climate reduction bill, the 43% cut below 2005 levels by 2030 and a reduction to net zero by 2050 through the federal parliament. The bill emphasises that the 2030 target is a floor. I love this expression. Is a floor, not a ceiling.
Not a ceiling.
Which means that it's a minimum cut that can happen, but there is nothing to legally prevent deeper cuts.
And the thing that I find interesting about this, because, so there's been a lot of discussion around Labor's climate bill. Like, that's we're all sort of, I say we were all, at least I was fingers crossed hoping that they would have a minority government that would have to maybe listen to some more stronger climate views.
From the Teal independents.
From the Teal independents, from the Greens or whatever in a crossbench, but they didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Because people were saying that a 43% cut by 2030 and net zero by 2050 is not ambitious enough.
Yeah.
And it's not. But yeah, so when it says that this bill emphasizes that it's a floor, not a ceiling, and there's nothing legally preventing them, I was like, there was nothing legally preventing you from doing it previously. It wasn't legality. It was that none of you were fucking doing it because you're craven. So that's why you need to make it legal, like legally preventative that you don't be more ambitious. That's the point, because we clearly haven't been able to trust any of you fuckers to be more ambitious unless we drag you kicking and screaming into doing it.
So a few things. It doesn't... there have been some amendments in recent weeks to this bill, which talks about having progress reports, right? Which I think is a positive thing. It's like, okay, we need to, and also advises certain government departments to take into account these targets when making decisions about whatever future investments. So it is a little more stringent than it was when it first came to Parliament, but still there's no mechanism to enforce it, to say, like, if you haven't met this target by this time, you get a kick in the pants or you've been a very naughty boy. And Labor have also declined to take on the Greens' suggested amendment, which was no new coal or no new coal-fired power stations, saying we're still going to get to the target, but we're leaving open the possibility that we might fire up some new coal power plants, which kind of, I don't know, doesn't feel as though it's like very much in the spirit of reducing emissions.
Yeah, we're going to make our target of reaching the floor, but we're also going to keep fucking the planet.
So there
they're
are
worried about energy at the moment, and they can't be seen to potentially kick an own goal on resources when they would then be slammed. That would just give a free pass to Peter Dutton,
Yes.
who's currently suggesting nuclear energy like it's a viable option.
Honestly,
there's no point giving
the nuclear
Labor
thing is so like brain-numbingly stupid. Like anyone who's ever looked, there's been so many analyses of this over the years. It's like, it takes a median number of 7 years to stand up a nuclear energy plant. So just off the bat, not a practical solution as to what we're going through in the next, 2 to 5 years. But like all of the modeling suggests that nuclear energy, as opposed to renewable energy, would be far, far more expensive a form of baseload power than other things like, storage or I don't know, whatever. Like it is not a practical solution to the problem. So maybe if you'd suggested this 15 years ago and you were actually on board with it, but it's not a good faith suggestion as a solution to the problem. It's just a way to beat Labor up over this fucking issue, right? So just shut up, Peter.
That's my point, is that I think that what they're worried about is if they did pull, new coal gas projects off the table, that would be a free pass to the opposition.
But they're going to, what I'm saying is they're going to beat you up anyway. Dutton's not going to go, I did pretty good on that one, I'm not going to attack. Like that's Dutton's whole job, is to be a rabid fucking attack dog. That's his whole job. And from now for the next, 2 and 3/4 years, that's all he's going to do, is just be an unhelpful attacking dickhead. So like, I don't feel as though like preserving optics for the opposing side, who has a 25% approval rating, as discussed in the last news poll. Peter Dutton's was per leader, but like, Albanese's at 57%, Dutton's at 25%, and the remainder are undecided as in terms of like preferred leader. So you're not gaining any support from the public by appeasing him, and he's going to attack you anyway. So I kind of feel like, why not go for the more ambitious proposal, which does more to actually move the needle in terms of where we need it to be. Apparently, a 50% plus reduction by 2030 is probably what we actually need. Why not be more ambitious? There's no political cost at this stage, where we've got maximum political capital. You've got a government that's come in that is, where the leader of whom is overwhelmingly popular at this exact moment in time. It's probably not going to stay that way as time goes on. So like, why not?
The economic cost, though, is probably what they're worried about.
Yeah, but the economic cost is, the economic cost is only relevant insofar as where the government then chooses to make investments. It's like, we know the coal economy is gone. So it's like, do we want to prop up, using government funds, a coal economy for the next 10, 15 years when we know it's going out the door? Or do we want to make the necessary investments in renewable energy, which we know for a fact is going to be the industry of the future? So like, if we talk about economic costs, you have to look at it like, not just in terms of like jobs today, but also like, where are the jobs going to be in 20 years? It's an investment in our future. And which is not to say these coal communities just get left behind. We just like drop a bomb on Newcastle and say, fuck them. Like, obviously there need to be provisions in place to make sure that these communities get the kind of support that they need to make the transition. But it doesn't make sense to me to leave the door open from a political standpoint, because there's no real advantage at this stage. Why not be ambitious and get credit for being ambitious?
Yeah, I think they're worried that, they could potentially, it would hurt exports to India, China, those places that are still to some extent reliant on Australian coal.
But we're not talking about, even phasing out existing coal plants, which is what we need to be doing.
No, we're talking about
new potential plants down the road. So it's like, I mean, I feel as though a little bit of it's moderation for the sake of moderation is what it feels like to me on behalf of the Labor Party. It's like, we're moderate because we want to be moderate guys. We want to be the guys in between, and no matter what the positions are, we will be in between them.
Yeah, devil's advocate enough, but yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Zali Spiegel said it when she was coming out of Parliament. She's like, it's not great, but
we'll take it.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
It's something.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah,
it's a start. Is what she said. Actually, sorry, it's a start.
The Greens said something similar, like, well, we would have liked the blocking of new coal and gas, power plants, but was it coal and gas or just coal?
I think coal and gas.
We opposed the starting of new coal and gas power plants or whatever it was, but like, we don't want the perfect to be the enemy of the good. And I think they've learned the lessons from last time around, where it's like, oh, the target is not ambitious enough, so the Greens are going to side with the Liberals and vote it down. They're like, no, we'll take something. We just would like it to be more ambitious. And I think there is the strategy is there to like get something on paper now and then push it further as time goes on, because you rather have something now than nothing. The 43% is something. It's decent, but it could be better. And I think it's interesting that the Teal independents were involved in the government's discussion. They didn't have to involve them in this to keep them on side. I think it's a really good strategy for boxing the Liberals out, is like keeping, even if you don't necessarily go along with all of their proposals and the things that they want, keeping the Teal independents kind of like in the tent is a useful strategy for Labor, because it really boxes the Liberals out, makes them completely irrelevant.
Sure. I think one vote in the Senate, I think, to get it through from memory.
Say again?
They've got to secure one vote in the Senate to get it passed.
Yeah, which seems very doable.
That bald guy, he looks...
Pocock.
I don't know. Yes, that's it, Pocock. Yep. So, yeah.
Well...
It's good. It's good, but it could be better, which is basically the thing that millennials have been saying about everything their entire lives.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is fine, but it could be better.
Could be better. But speaking of things that I don't think could get any better, if we want to talk about our final story of today, Alex Jones, just for some delicious,
listen, folks, I've seen the documents. Okay.
Oh. Pretty good Alex Jones, George. Just for some delicious, I couldn't have another bite because this is just so unbelievably tasty. So Alex Jones has been appearing in court recently over a defamation trial around all his comments following, for the past decade, following the Sandy Hook mass shooting in America that killed like a bunch of school children. A
bunch, is that the technical?
A bunch, yeah.
Yeah, a real fucking shirtload of kids got fucking murdered.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, where's the lie? But yeah, so, and he, for the past decade since that happened, one of Alex Jones's constant lines has been, no, it was staged, it was faked. All these parents who are saying that they're upset that their children died, they're crisis actors.
It was synthetic.
It's not real.
Folks, I've seen the documents, okay? It's synthetic, okay? Yeah. Crisis actors.
Yeah. Crisis actors along with turning frogs gay through water or something. I remember him saying something like that.
The juice boxes. The juice boxes are turning the freaking frogs gay.
It's gay. So he's been having a defamation trial because the parents of one of the children have been able to one of the children who was killed have been able to take him to court over all this sort of stuff in a civil context. And it came to a head this week. I think the verdict also came down since I posted this story, and I think he was Alex Jones was ordered to pay like a compensationary amount of like $4 million and then punitive damages of like $44 million. Like 44. There's like it's nearly $50 million sort of straight up, which is juicy. But it just had a really interesting turn of events that was gorgeous. I don't know. Do we want to set it up before the clip?
So this is a clip. So Alex Jones is in court, and he's just got really like I'm trying to get fired energy throughout this whole process. Like the guy really does not know how to like stop shitting in his own head.
I was thinking like him trying to get fired.
Mouth.
As you'll see from I guess the events that happen, I think it's his lawyers are the ones trying to get fired. Like Alex Jones's lawyers are like, we're trying to undermine our own client.
No, I disagree. I think it's just pure incompetence. I think any lawyer who would like willingly represent InfoWars at trial is just not going to be a good lawyer, because like, this would not be the way to throw Alex Jones under the bus if you were the lawyers, because it makes you as the lawyers look bad, right? So anyway, so it's like he was like he was talking shit in the trial. And like he had this weird cough thing where he was like pretending to cough and like, I don't know, to seem sympathetic to the judge. Or some weird strategy. And then he would like go on his show, like, and then do a 2-hour show like hours later with no cough whatsoever, no issues. Like, the guy's a weirdo, fucking weird idiot liar. And like, even to the extent like during the trial process, he was like posting about the judge, like talking about her, saying that she was involved like some sort of child sex situation. Like,
wow, what?
To the judge who is judging your trial as the trial is going. It's just like not a good strategic move, Alex. But here's Alex Jones. Well, I'll just let the clip play for itself because it's so delicious. So yeah, I want to see it unfold.
Mr. Jones, did you know that 12 days ago, your attorneys messed up. They sent me an entire digital copy of your entire cell phone with every text message you've sent for the past 2 years, and when informed, did not take any steps to identify it as privileged or protect it in any way. And as of 2 days ago, it fell free and clear into my possession. And that is how I know you lied to me when you said you didn't have text messages about Sandy Hook. Did you know that?
I told you the truth. This is your Perry Mason moment. I gave them my phone, and then
Mr. Jones, you need to answer the question.
No,
Did you know this happened?
no, I didn't know this happened. But I mean, I told you I gave them the phone over.
Just
And
answer
you
the
said-
question.
You said in your deposition, you searched your phone. You said you pulled down the text, did the search function for Sandy Hook. That's what you said, Mr. Jones, correct?
And I had several different phones with this number, but I did, yeah. Well, of course. I mean, that's why you got it.
No, Mr. Jones, that's not what happened.
My lawyer sent it to you, but I'm hiding it. Okay.
Mr. Jones,
Mr. Jones, that's
just answer questions. There's no question. Mr. Bankston also only asks questions.
sure. Mr. Jones, in discovery, you were asked, do you have Sandy Hook text messages on your phone? And you said no, correct?
Thinks about it.
You said that under oath. Mr. Jones, didn't you?
I mean, if I was mistaken, I was mistaken, but you got the messages right there.
You know it perfectly. I just want to make sure you know before we go any further. You know what it is.
Yes, I do. I mean, I'm not a tech guy. I told you I gave in my testimony the phone to the lawyers before, whatever, and so you got my phone, but we didn't give it to you.
No, Mr. Jones. One more time. And please remember, if you need to assert the Fifth Amendment, you can. I need to know you can. But you testified under oath previously that you personally searched your phone for the phrase Sandy Hook, and there were no messages. You said that under oath.
Yes.
And you lied when you said it.
No, I did not lie.
Emails. You testified yesterday you don't have it. You got rid of your email 10 years ago.
InfoWars email.
Oh, so now it's info. You do use email though, don't you?
Not. It's like household stuff and things like that.
So it's
I don't personally send emails.
Sure.
My assistant does, and it's for like broken sprinklers or whatever.
Okay. So you don't have emails about Sandy Hook. You don't have emails about this case.
You got hundreds of thousands of our emails.
None from you. And I didn't get hundreds of thousands of emails. Most of those, in fact, you would agree with me, nearly every email you've produced to me outside of maybe 100 are emails of Wolfgang Halbig and Jim Fetzer. Because they sent you thousands of emails, right?
I mean, I quit opening email and using it before Sandy Hook.
Okay. So you, in other words, if somebody was to tell me, oh, I have emails from Mr. Jones that he wrote about this case in the past couple of years, that person would be lying? You're telling the truth?
Somebody else has got my InfoWars email because I haven't been using it in
That's not qualified, Mr. Jones. You know in this case, you were asked to produce your emails, any emails you had about Sandy Hook. You know you were asked to do that, right?
Yeah.
And you said you didn't have it.
I told my IT people, go, you've got all that stuff.
No, Mr. Jones, I'm saying in deposition, under oath, sworn to God, you said you don't have any emails for Sandy Hook because you don't use email, right?
I mean, I think I haven't been using InfoWars email, and it's got to be a decade or longer in my memory.
I don't.
We're with Infowars.com, you know.
No, Mr. Jones. No. That's not what I'm asking. You notice when Mr. Watson emailed you, right? He didn't have an InfoWars email address, does he? He has like paulwatson@sky.com. It's a UK email address. Did you notice
Yes.
that? Right. We asked for all emails, and you told us you don't use email, and there are no emails for Sandy Hook. That's what you said under oath, isn't it?
there might be, I'm sure there might be like privileged emails where like lawyers are requesting documents or stuff about the case.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah.
First, objection non-responsive.
Sustained.
Did you testify under oath that you do not use email and that there are no...
It goes on like that. And then, of course, he shows the emails that he sent.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Like, you can see...
I've watched... You don't even need to have watched The Good Wife to understand when a trap is being set, right? Like, you said under oath, like, and by the way, you know what perjury is, right? Okay, good. Okay,
Yeah.
you know...
If you need to plead the
assert your
fifth.
Fifth Amendment... This would be the time to do it, buddy, because this is what you're doing is perjury. Okay, now that we've set the trap and I've pointed you with a big neon sign towards it, did you send emails? I don't know. I had the documents and the emails. What the Infowars emails? I don't what about like broken sprinklers and like no, Mister. And the way like patiently kind of like a school, like a kindergarten teacher, be like, no, we're coloring over here, Mister Jones. And it's just like, of course, he's about to show you emails that you sent about the like. Of course he is. How are you not smart enough to figure this out?
Syntactically, it doesn't even I can't even piece together what he's saying because there's a question being asked and he kind of doesn't answer the question. He just talks about...
I would like to answer my own question instead. I sent you the documents and I shared the email. Well, I don't recall if I...
Yeah, the constant thread is that he's trying to throw out that it is some sort of weird tech issue. Like, he keeps throwing out, like, I'm not a tech guy. So,
he's trying to qualify
I searched Sandy Hook and nothing came up, but I'm not a tech guy, so maybe I did it wrong because I'm an idiot computer person, and so they're giving me an out. It's like, no, that doesn't fly here, buddy. Just the story, so as the lawyer explained at the front, just the sheer incompetence of the situation that you are the lawyers for the parents, so for the parents of the murdered child, just receiving, what's this we've gotten in our inbox? Oh, we've been sent an entire copy of Alex Jones's phone with all his text messages, all his emails, all this sort of stuff. This is probably a mistake. So following the rules,
yes,
I believe they have, they're following the rules. They informed Alex Jones's lawyers, you've sent us this stuff, and you have 10 days to tell us that this is privileged, it was a mistake, and that we're not allowed to even look at it. You have 10 days to do all that, and that's the game. Like,
and
that's
that would
the game,
be the end of it. Like, if they had have done that
would be the end of it.
Then this lawyer would not have been able to do anything with that information, and they just neglected to do anything about it.
Yeah, and that's what he was saying. In that, 12 days ago that happened, and then the 10 days lapsed. Not even no response at all from Alex Jones's lawyers, and they're like, cool. Well, then we are allowed to look through this. And it's all free information now. And so they did. And oh boy, they were able to find text messages or emails and all this sort of stuff that he said he didn't have. And it's just insane to see Alex Jones's lawyers in the clip, which, listeners would have been able to see. It's just sitting there, just completely not responding to what's going on. It's like, what? That's what I thought. Is it? No, I'm trying to get fired. I've been working with Alex Jones for years on this case, and oh my God, this guy's a monster and I hate him. So, you know what? I'm just going to send them his phone and then not do anything about it and just be like, yep, I'm done.
That's one way to quit a job. There's this great bit where the courtroom sort of cameraman sort of pans over and you can see another cameraman in the shot who's shooting the other angle of of Alex Jones. And he's just kind of got the same grin on his face that I do. He's just like, I can't believe this is happening.
He's like, this is the best day of my life as a courtroom cameraman.
Oh God, I did the OJ trial and this is still better. It's just wild. The way he's like, well, yeah, I had multiple phones at that time with this number, but I don't know if many phones. This is the guy who's like, we got insider information from the CIA, the Pentagon. I've seen the documents. He could get access to all this sort of information, but when it's search Sandy Hook liar under the text message function on his phone, he's like, no, this is too hard.
No, this is all too hard and strange. It's just wild. And the other aspects of it, Like there was other elements in the testimony as well where he was asking him questions like, "You have an iPhone, yes, and you've used iPhones for many years." Like, It's like, so what does it mean in this screenshot here when the text messages are blue? What does the blue part mean? Like, I don't know. He's like, it means they're from you.
Yeah.
Like, just outlining all this sort of shit. But other parts of it that are interesting is that, InfoWars itself is quite secretive in sort of how it operates. Like, it always presents itself as such a, oh no, we're funded by you guys, the listeners,
underdog.
and oh man, we barely got money to keep the lights on for another month, so please keep buying our tactical taint wipes and all that sort of shit through their survival store. All the kind of like go bag bullshit that they sell on their website.
Folks, you need your dick vitamins, folks. Okay.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, the emails that they've been able to find have better explained the finances of InfoWars, which is a little bit interesting, where I think previously in the testimony, Alex Jones mentioned that the highest figure his company was making, that InfoWars was making, was about $200,000 a day, which is fucking a lot. Yeah. But the email figures referenced about $800,000 a day, so significantly higher than what Jones testified. And at the same time as well, there's been a constant constant like complaining from InfoWars ever since they were delisted from like Facebook and Twitter and like just deplatformed on all those things, saying like, oh, it's totally fucked our business. No, those $800,000 a day periods were happening after that. Like, actually they did so much better. Like, so it's just all lies. Like, just all these,
he's doing
all
just
these
fine.
lies.
Like, this is
doing just fine.
$800,000 days were during the CPAC conference. So you can see how there's a natural crossover there, the conservative conference over in the US. But yeah, it's no secret that Alex Jones and InfoWars has made a shitload of money off,
conspiracy
monetizing fuckheads.
theories. Yeah.
So the idea that
he's been doing it since what, like 2000s, basically.
Years.
He was part of the 9/11 truth movement, for God's sake.
I think it was, I can't remember who it was, but someone did a segment on like all the different Rolexes that they've seen him wearing on the show. Like so it's not even like disputable. It's like, here are all the like public photographs that he's put out with like several different Rolexes and like high-end watches. Like, the guy is making an absolute mint doing this, and now he's turned around and declared bankruptcy for the InfoWars to try and get out of paying this $44 million settlement. But I don't think that's going to be very successful. Like, it's clear it's just a paper bankruptcy to further stall the process. Like,
and to be clear, like America's a big place. So, even if you would class him as a fringe website, he still has, like in 2016, InfoWars still received about 10 million visits.
Oh, he was on Joe Rogan like a couple of years. I remember hearing it and being like, so it must have been like pre-2020, because that's when I stopped listening to Joe Rogan because of all the sort of post like pandemic misinformation stuff. I was like, okay, and we're done. But like, it couldn't have been that. I think it might have been like during 2020, 2019, something like that. He had Alex Jones on the biggest podcast on earth. And it was like, hey, what you said about the Sandy Hook stuff was fucked up. And he goes, oh yeah, I never said that. Like, I took it back. It's all, it's all media beat up. Like, tried to like distance himself from those comments. And then Joe Rogan was like, okay.
Yeah, cool.
Let's talk about aliens. Like,
and just as a reminder as well about all this, the Sandy Hook shooting happened in 2012, like 10 years ago. That's how long it's taken for this to all sort of come to a
these
head.
people have been hounded out of their homes. They've had to move homes. Yeah. Their parents of this kid who was murdered have said like they've had vehicles shot up by like random insane people. They've had people shooting at their house. Like it is a truly unconscionable thing to make victims of the parents of, people who have lost their child as a result of a mass shooting. Like, I can't think of anything more gross and despicable than to do.
Keep in mind, the people that are following Jones aren't just like passive watchers. The people that are watching him have made the cognitive choice, the active choice to follow him and to buy into his narrative.
But because
And
it's not
that's
like
why-
broadcast media, you mean
Yeah,
they're like
it-
subscribing to
exactly.
him or whatever. Yeah.
They're subscribing,
Yeah.
they're donating, they're buying into his message, which means that anything he says is going to be absorbed, listened to, and acted on with
Oh yeah.
much more fervor,
Folks,
anger,
I got some dick pills.
irrationality.
I got some dick pills for you to buy, folks. Okay. Vitamin D
Whoa.
and guarana, folks.
Well,
And
remember the really scary footage around January 6th and after
He was
the
there.
last election?
He
He
helped
was
fund it.
there.
He
but
helped fund
also
the rally at the start.
he I think immediately following the election, so I think it was pre-January 6th, but he gave some "This is the revolution" chest beating speech
Oh,
to
yeah.
a crowd of nut bars, and I was like, that's actually legitimately terrifying.
Oh,
But-
President Trump, when he won in 2016, called Alex Jones, I think it was the day after or shortly after the election, to say thank you for all the support that you've given. I think he's called in on the show previously.
Yeah.
This is not it's just some right-wing nut bar who lives in isolation and he's got his 1 million followers who are just, certified crazy people that are supporting him. He is linked in with the Trump administration.
Republican movement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's insane. But I guess they're tying into that. Remember, the lawyer here, Mark Bankston, mentioned that he has every text message that Alex Jones sent over the past 2 years. Guess what falls within that time frame?
Oh, they're January 6th.
Exactly that period.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not a lawyer, but from what I've understood, just sort of reading into other people talking about it a bit, is that if they find anything in there that it implies criminal activity, they are compelled to turn it over.
Yeah,
so
it'd be interesting to see what comes out
if
of that.
there's anything in there, ooh, juicy.
I would
Yeah.
love for Trump to go to jail, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't see any way that happens.
Oh, well, I mean, fingers crossed he just drops dead first. I mean, that'd just be nice.
I think the more likely scenario is his heart explodes due to an overload of
Yeah.
cheeseburgers and Diet Coke, and hopefully we're just spared another Trump run. But
Yeah.
Just the whole Alex Jones thing, I just find it amazing. He was deplatformed by major social media networks, and it's all, and I guess it's part of just the conservative echo chamber in the US over the last 6 years. It's just made him more prevalent to some
100%.
extent.
well, you saw that season of Homeland where they had where they had
my
a character
God.
who was basically Alex Jones.
David Arquette.
Yes, David Arquette.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, and where he was basically playing the
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones, the propaganda mouthpiece part of the misinformation apparatus. He has been around for so long. He's embedded himself in the popular culture now. It's no longer just a fun fringe thing where people go on to talk about aliens and fun conspiracy theories. It's become this whole, I don't know, independent media behemoth. Yeah, they might have been making $800,000 a day at the peak. I'm sure it's less than that normally, but still, they're making a shitload of money monetizing this misinformation and also poisoning the epistemology of everyone else. The making people doubt institutions and government and masking. It's all part of the same apparatus, right? It's all part of the same blob of the problem. And Alex Jones and people like him just live right at the center of that. So, man, I hope he goes down like the sack of shit that he is.
I don't know if it was David Arquette. Now I'm just sort of second guessing myself.
In Homeland.
Homeland. Someone looked very like David Arquette if it wasn't him. No, it's Jake Weber.
He absolutely looks like David Arquette.
Yeah. Anyway.
You ever seen them together in the same room?
Mm.
I don't know. Get Alex Jones on the blower. That sounds like the next big scoop.
Are you sure it was? What's this guy's
I
name?
just looked it up. Jake Weber.
This is great
1B.
content.
Yeah, you're right, Jake Weber. But he absolutely
Yeah.
looks like David Arquette. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Brett
glad we
O'Keefe
solved that.
was the character on Homeland. Brett O'Keefe, as opposed to Alex Jones.
Yeah.
But he
And
even
he
did the
talks like
voice.
this. I
Talks
was like,
with a
that's
gravelly
not
voice.
an analogy at all.
Yeah. It's and he has this independent media organization which is spreading lies and bullshit. Yeah, it's absolutely.
The funny thing was they set that up just so. Well, I won't spoil it, but you should watch that season of Homeland. It was without going into a diatribe about how much I love Homeland, like it was a well-timed season.
Yeah, it was a very timely show for the downfall of democracy. Very entertaining, very good. Should get an Emmy. On that note, we have been, we are, and we always will be Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. Make sure you follow us on all the bullshit social medias that have, do, or ever will exist at Unnatural Show. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and motherfucking TikTok. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Twitter at Tom D. Heath.
You can follow me on Instagram at AC Doreen.
And you can follow us all down to the studio, folks. I've got a great, you got some great laxatives here, folks. Okay, all natural ingredients. Shit your guts out, and you shit out the false, fake information media. Okay, I've seen the documents, folks. Thanks for listening, guys. Love your faces. We'll see you next week.